Thank you for this opportunity to be with you at this conference and to be on such an illustrious panel to talk about the future. Because we so often at WFP spend our time talking about today. Many of you who know WFP as the organization that for 50 years has had the responsibility of getting large amounts of food to large numbers of people fast and expeditiously and with as much efficiency as possible, particularly during times of emergency and crisis. But what we know and what we've learned is that we cannot end hunger and create a more food secure world unless we give people the ability to feed themselves, unless we create the systems that will allow an opportunity for us to build sustainable agricultural systems. And in fact, in direct response to your question, the World Trade Organization theoretically suggests today that as a global community, we not only produce enough grains to feed the entire world's population, but if we divide the amount of grain produced by the number of people on the planet, that there is enough food produced to allow every man, woman, and child approximately 2,750 kilocalories per day. And for those of you who count those calories, you know that the average person only requires about 2,100 kilocalories per day. So you ask, if that's true, then why is the World Food Program need to feed 97 million people every year? Why are there 850 million people still food insecure? Why am I even standing up here? The answer to that is a simple one. Where the food is not where the hungry people are, far too often. The answer is that food security requires access and availability. Where we produce an overabundance of food, as I said, is not where people are located. They're in the north, the food's in the north, people who are hungry in the south. We could argue that, as many do, that the world does not suffer from a production problem, that we suffer from because food is available. But in reality, when I was in northern Niger, and I met with a mother who was picking dried leaves to feed her children because the harvest had failed and she had depleted all of her assets, you could not tell her about the 2,700 kilocalories that were available to she and her children, because she was going to feed them these leaves to keep their stomachs full. So we know that we need a different answer, that we need to ensure that we build the agricultural system in those places that will support the opportunity to provide availability and access to all people. And the challenges don't just start with food, seeds in the ground, or end with markets. It requires the development of the entire agricultural development system. Because we oftentimes focus on the development of increasing yields and quality of those yields of smallholder farmers, but we fail to build markets. So we must focus on the entire agricultural development system, and we must focus on overcoming the dual challenge of food availability and access. And it can be done. It can be done even in the tough places. And the example of the fact that it can be done is China. 50 years ago, the pundits said that China, with its growing population, could never overcome the series of famine that they were continuing to address on an annual basis. Today, China manages to feed its very large population on a quarter of the same land that the United States has available to it. So we know that we can address the availability and the access issues for the benefit of the population. But what will it require? First, we do need to increase the yields of smallholder farmers and the quality of those yields. And that will require smart agriculture that uses less water, with seeds that require fewer inputs, that provide less damage to the natural resources of land and soil. What that requires, as the Prince was saying earlier today, as His Excellency was saying, investments in science and research and innovation. Research that results in more drought-resistant and drought-tolerant seeds. In sub-Saharan Africa, that will mean public goods research into the development of drought-resistant cultural crops like sorghum, root crops, and millet. And those crops are often called the orphan crops today because there is no research, or there's a dearth of research on those particular crops, because of their lack of market value in the Northern Hemisphere. But those investments must be made if we are going to increase the agricultural yields of those products. But it also means research into providing biofortification of products to ensure that what we have available when we increase yields is also the products that will meet the dietary needs of a nutritious diet and not just fill stomachs. But it also will require investments in infrastructure, irrigation systems. Too often we see in sub-Saharan Africa, again for an example, that less than 5% of all arable land is under an irrigation system. It's still dependent upon rain-fed agriculture, so that when the rains don't come, the crops don't grow. But seeds in the ground, irrigation also requires transportation and infrastructure support of roads. In a place like South Sudan, where you have less than 100 kilometers of paved roads in a country the size of France, you cannot talk about developing a sustainable agricultural development system unless you also develop roads that provide access to markets, which also means you need markets. Because the reality is, if you grow more, you must have some place to sell it. WFP has programs where we serve as catalyst market, but we can only be the catalyst market because you need commercial markets to ensure sustainability. So the entire value chain, from seeds in the ground to markets to people's tables, that's how we build the agricultural development system that ensures that where the hungry people are, the food is located. Where the opportunity for every child to have access to nutritional food is secured. That opportunity is within our grasp, but it will require all of us working together. Because as one of my board members said to me, we can have a vision, but a vision without investment is simply a hallucination. So if we want to do this, it will require the global community coming together to invest in the full agricultural development chain for the benefits of those who we serve. And I will close by quoting President Kagame in a meeting that we just finished, where he said to me, "We can't change our past, but we can shape our future." Thank you.